Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the UIC College of Education Dean's Forum. My name is Mirna Teresa Holton. I'm inspired by UIC education and ever grateful for my role as Director of Development. So I'll start with a few housekeeping items before we begin. All participants will be muted for the first 45 minutes, and please keep your cameras on if you're comfortable during this interactive session. And if you have questions throughout, please post them in the chat box. We'll get to as many as possible for the Q&A section at the end of the event. This is being recorded and will be made available on the College of Education's website. As soon as we have it available, we will email you and let you know. And finally, you'll receive a brief survey in a couple of days after the presentation, which we encourage you to complete and let us know your thoughts. And now, please allow me to introduce the Dean of the College of Education, Dr. Kathryn Chval.
Thank you, Mirna. I appreciate that. It's great to work with you. I'd like to welcome everyone to the second Dean's Forum. We're grateful for your presence and your commitment to the UIC College of Education. I have the absolute best job in the world. I enter my office each day with immense gratitude and a sense of responsibility. This past year, I worked with a group of faculty and staff, seeking feedback and working together to recognize our college's history, consider our present, and dream about our future. This group led the way in framing our mission, vision, and values. Our mission is to transform education to advance justice and liberation. Our vision, a world where education fosters human flourishing, and our values of hope, engagement, and justice. We believe these words capture the essence of our college, honor our past work, and inspire future actions and decisions. We will focus tonight's forum on the value of hope, and future forums will focus on engagement and justice. One definition of hope is a feeling of expectation and desire for a certain thing to happen. Hope is a word that we have all used since childhood. And I would like all of you to consider what are common phrases that include the word hope, and then add an example in the chat. So I'll give you a minute to do that. What are common phrases that include the word hope?
Hope for the future.
I hope you're feeling better.
Hope you are well. I have high hopes. Hope for a good outcome. If you have hope, you can push forward. Don't give up hope. I hope they don't call on me. Keep hope alive.
Any others?
Hope for a better tomorrow.
Those are great. Well, I did a Google search. Some of yours are better than what I found. Oh, Hope Springs Eternal. The number one answer on Google was A New Hope for the Star Wars fans. Let's see, I see a few more coming in. Why don't you read those, Myrna?
Providing an equal education platform, giving hope to all who pursue it, and don't lose hope.
Nice. So what or who do you put your hope on or in? Pin your hopes on. Glimmer of hope. Build up your hopes. Center of hope. High hopes. Hope for the best. And keep hope alive. That last one is typically at athletic events, I think, when the sportscasters are talking about a game. So we believe that it's essential to imagine hope, to inspire hope, and to ignite hope. Hope for something different facilitates transformation in thinking, actions, and emotions. We've all heard stories involving an absence or a lack of hope that led to horrible consequences. Hopelessness and flourishing cannot coexist. Therefore, we need to prioritize imagining, inspiring, and igniting hope. The College of Education wants to be in the hope business. Tonight, we are fortunate to engage with two of our faculty scholars to learn more about their efforts related to hope and their pursuit of transformation. First, I would like to introduce Professor Courtney Luedke, who joined the college in August as a faculty member in the Department of Educational Policy Studies, and who serves as coordinator of the master's degree program in urban higher education. Dr. Luedke's research focuses on transforming Black, Indigenous, people of color students' experiences with anti-racist practices within higher education. She is serving as a co-PI on a new National Science Foundation grant that will study students and research mentors who are involved in STEM research, apprenticeships, identifying ways in which students and their mentors relate to one another over the course of the apprenticeship, and explore pivotal moments that alter the course of their relationship. Courtney, thanks for joining us. Can you start tonight's discussion with why is hope important and relevant to education?
Thank you so much, Dean Chval, for that introduction. And I just want to, thank you for the opportunity to be here with you all. As a new faculty member at UIC, I'm elated by the opportunity to have to share a bit more about my work and for you all to get to know more about me, and specifically tonight, thinking about the role of hope as it relates to my scholarship. So when I think about hope, some of the things that really come to mind is I think about dreams for today, for tomorrow, for the future. I think about the ways that students dream and hope for an education system and a society that really sees them, that fully sees them, that sees opportunity in them, and that sees a brighter future with their integration. I have several strands of scholarship, some of which Dean Chval mentioned earlier, but what I want to focus on tonight is my work, my collaborative work and engagement with undocumented students, or dreamers, as many folks refer to them as. These collaborators of mine are students who primarily came to the United States as very young children. Their parents had hopes and dreams and aspirations that migrating to the US would provide greater educational opportunities. I interviewed undocumented students across Wisconsin and Illinois, given their differing policy contexts. And I spoke with students who attended all different types of institutions, 2-year colleges, 4-year universities, public institutions, private institutions, predominantly white institutions, and minority-serving institutions. I gathered students' testimonials, and they shared their journeys with me, both their successes and triumphs, as well as the challenges that they encountered along the way. Testimonials created an opportunity for students to really share the injustices that they experienced, and we dreamed together about solutions and ways to really make higher education more just. When I asked my collaborators about what motivated them to pursue higher education, one of the really significant themes that came about was the opportunity and ability for them to honor their parents' sacrifices, to honor the hopes and dreams that they had for them in coming to the United States. Their K-12 experiences were sometimes mixed, but consistent across their stories was hope. Their aspirations were instilled in them by their family members and oftentimes nurtured by caring and K-12 educators, school counselors, staff members. My collaborators really wanted an opportunity to attend college like many of their peers. And a primary motivator to do so was really honoring their parents and families. Many participants sought to transform their families and their communities generationally by breaking barriers and really role modeling college going for younger generations. The collaborators that I worked with, these students persisted despite mounting barriers to even accessing higher education because they had hope. And it was this hope for possibilities that lay in the future. It was determination that really granted them the ability to persist, and they remembered their hopes and their dreams when these challenges that they faced seemed insurmountable. Challenges like being charged out-of-state tuition for someone who migrated to Wisconsin when they were less than 1 year old. Challenges like being discouraged from pursuing their desired major, like financial aid counselors being unaware of financing opportunities and scholarships open to undocumented students. Fortunately, Illinois provides in-state tuition and state aid to eligible undocumented students. However, not all students are aware of this, and this is something we need to ensure that they are aware of. One of the new or perhaps recent challenges that has returned upon us is that many of our incoming undocumented students are no longer eligible for DACA, given its current state. And while DACA only provided a liminal status that did not allow their full integration into society, it did provide some significant protections and some important safeguards. It allowed students to obtain employment during and after college in their desired career fields. It had deferral for deportation, among other things. And what this means for our incoming students not having DACA, many of them, it means that they're facing additional challenges and layers of uncertainty. And these challenges will surely place barriers in their way. And so it's important that we think about ways that we can enhance and uplift their aspirations and their hopes amidst this current political environment. So as I think about hope and how or whether it's relevant to education, I believe that wholeheartedly it is integral to education. I don't believe that any of us would be here today as a part of this Zoom call if we didn't believe in hope and its ability in the future to really, influence our aspirations, desires, and where we can see changes possible. It is these very dreams that really bring students to our doors. They're dreams of a more just education systems, dreams of equitable inclusion in society, dreams of respect, of eliminated barriers, dreams of dignity, and hopes for a future that really creates opportunities for one to flourish, not just survive, not live under the radar in fear. It is hope that's bringing students to us. And I believe that it is our obligation to do everything that we can to create an environment that really encourages our students to continue to hope, to dream, imagine, and contribute to a brighter future.
No, thank you. That's an amazing answer to that question. And we're grateful you're here. Some of the audience may not know that we're now above 60% in the College of Education that are Latinx, primarily Latina. So most of our undergraduates are women. And so that's been a pretty big shift, way above the campus average. And so you bring this expertise, these stories of families and students you've talked to that I know are really going to enhance the experiences of our students, but also help us design what we should be doing. I'm glad that our Associate Dean for Student Success is here tonight, Maria Luna Duarte. What do we need to do within the college to support these students as they come to our campus? So thank you for that. Your next question, because you did such a great job with that one, is how does your research, scholarship, or teaching transform education in ways that generate or inspire hope for the future?
Thank you for that. I'll start with my research, my scholarship. It's really inspired by a more equitable and just education system. I do the work that I'm involved in because I'm really committed to informing and influencing policy and practice that's really aimed at inclusion in education, particularly at the level of higher education. So I'm seeking to learn answers to what is and what is not working. I'm really invested in collaborating with students to generate ideas and really minimize and remove some of the barriers to access, persistence, and inclusion across higher education. And I believe this is really possible and enhanced through relationship building. So when I think about my work, relationship building is really, really key with the students that I work with, or I, oftentimes refer to them as collaborators. So many of my collaborators in my work with undocumented students are students that I met through my own advocacy work. I have sustained relationships with many of these individuals who have now graduated from college. They're in the workforce. While they were in college and, over the years, I sought to take away some of the burden of advocating for policy and practice changes at my former institution to really advocate for more support, more resources, more awareness about the experiences of undocumented students. And most importantly, advocating for tuition equity on my campus in Wisconsin, where students are charged out of state. My students that I worked with, their journeys and their hopes and dreams really sustained me, and they influenced my commitment to advocating alongside them in bettering our campuses. So while I am new here to UIC, I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to build new relationships with key stakeholders, both on and off campus, I really hope that I'm going to be able to serve the undocumented community here on campus in ways that will be both sought after as well as helpful. And I aim for this servingness to be student-led and directed. Beyond the UIC community, I'm really looking forward to building collaborative relationships with other stakeholders across Chicago, looking at building relationships with folks at other campuses so that we can share resources, so that we can strategize about how to best support our undocumented students, particularly those who currently are in college without the protections of DACA. I seek for my engagement and my scholarship with undocumented students to really bring about change and to inspire hope for more equitable college experiences. You also asked a bit about how this influences my teaching. So as it relates to my teaching, one of my primary goals is to really support students in developing as racial justice change agents. So in the classroom, I really like to collaborate with my students for us to envision a more just higher education. So it's about us learning from the past, working together to develop strategies and tools to really lead for change and to generate new approaches to solving some of the challenges and barriers that students face in college. My courses are very discussion-based, so I really highlight a co-learning environment where everyone in the class is both a teacher and a learner. And I believe this really builds students' capacity and their confidence to not only engage, but to really serve as leading advocates for change, not only in the classroom, but in everything that they go to do beyond. I believe that students are developing skills to identify policies and practices that are not serving students in ways that facilitate their persistence. And this allows students to advocate for remedying these challenges through research and practice-informed solutions. So with each change towards equity and justice, hope is renewed, it's restored, and it serves as a motivating force to really continue advocating for change, even through difficult times and difficult policy environments like the one we're in currently. So for me, I see hope for a more just education system as really central to the work that I do in the classroom.
That's great. And I think what's interesting about your work is you think not only about the research and the service and the teaching, but you've worked really hard to influence policy at a state level, and that's rare. And so people see you as an expert in that space and love to see what you're going to do here. So what policies and practices can be enacted to sustain hope? What do you think?
So I mentioned policies are so important in thinking about the environment that we're in. And one of the things that actually really drew me to Illinois, to coming to Chicago, here to UIC, is the more undocu-friendly policies that are in place here. As I mentioned earlier, because undocumented students receive in-state tuition rates, and many of them are eligible for in-state aid, some of these significant barriers are already removed. Policies can often maintain oppression, or they can seek to expand opportunities. And if you focus on the state level context compared to where I'm coming from in Wisconsin, in many ways, Illinois is already providing more expanded opportunities to accessing higher education for undocumented youth. However, we are currently in a time when we're sliding backwards in terms of incorporating undocumented folks into society at the federal level. Through my work, I've really sought to explore how the policy context really shapes students' experiences. My research has found that undocumented friendly states, such as Illinois, really reduces the severity and number of barriers that undocumented students are facing in their pursuit of higher education. It's not to say that we're without barriers, but they're definitely significantly reduced given the policy context that we're in here. As it relates to the institutional level, many of our incoming students, as I shared, are phasing out of DACA eligibility, giving its existing criteria and giving that, in recent years, over and over, it's been shut down in the courts. And so no new applicants are able to apply. It's only accepting renewals. So this means that many of the protections previously experienced by some of our students are no longer in place for many of our incoming students. Over recent years, many institutions have begun to kind of craft their supports for undocumented students towards those with DACA, which means at the institutional level, some may not be prepared to support incoming students who don't have those DACA protections. So I think an immediate concern policy-wise is for our colleges and universities to untether DACA status from eligibility and supports and access to resources on their campuses. At the state level, I believe that in Illinois, we have a significant opportunity to really serve as a leader in expanding access and supporting undocumented students. We're really well positioned, given our existing policies and established support across many campuses. And I believe that we can serve as an exemplar for other states, while continuing to make our state even more undocumented friendly. I also think it's important to think about that federal context. As I shared earlier, we currently have a mismatch between state and federal policies. So some of our state level protections, like in-state tuition rates and financial aid, are not available at the federal level to undocumented students. The majority of states do not allow in-state tuition rates. I believe it's really critical that our state level leaders advocate for larger systemic change, demonstrating, using Illinois as an example of how our policies are serving our state, but not only allowing people to realize their hopes and dreams, but by really contributing financially to the state through meaningful and gainful employment that supports both families and communities. Doing this will inspire more hope in our communities. We need to continue to advocate for change, for immigration reform at the federal level. A state only has so much freedom to put protections into place for our undocumented youth. And as such, it's really important that we continue to put pressure on those in leadership roles to advocate for passing humane immigration policies, expanding pathways to citizenship. It will really allow the opportunity for folks to be full members of society, and this too will inspire hope in meaningful and life-changing ways. Our undocumented students are in really precarious situations right now. We continue to have undocumented students enrolling in colleges despite the uncertainty of their futures and the ability of whether or not they'll be able to use their degrees in their career fields that they aspire to enter if they don't have DACA, if there isn't other pathways for them to citizenship in their specific situations. So in recent years, nationally, we've also seen decreases in undocumented students enrolling in higher education, likely connected to DACA eligibility. Many undocumented youth continue to remain unsure of what their options are without DACA. And I think we can all take a role in inspiring hope within these youth. I believe that now more than ever, we really need to ensure partnerships with community organizations, with schools, really identifying ways to ensure that undocumented students know that there are still pathways to higher education, even without DACA. In order to realize that pathway, we must ensure that our scholarship opportunities target our most financially needy students. As I shared, financing higher education can be one of the most significant barriers to accessing and persisting in college. So if we at UIC are able to lessen this burden, we can really contribute to reigniting the hope that students have about their educational futures. And as educators, we really must do all that we can to sustain this hope, to inspire hope, and really advocate for inclusion at all levels, from our very institutions, from UIC, all the way up to federal policy reform. So as I kind of wrap up, this final response, I would ask our attendees to kind of consider, how is it that you can support undocumented immigrant communities? If you're able to give to scholarship opportunities that target undocumented students, many of whom are ineligible for scholarship opportunities because many of them require Social Security numbers. I would love to see us have endowed scholarships for undocumented students in the College of Education across campus. But if you can't give, you can also serve. There's so many ways to serve, whether it's mentoring high school students about their college navigation process, serving different community organizations, or thinking about new ways to serve the recent Venezuelan immigrants that are setting down roots right here in Chicago. So in closing, I just encourage you all to use your voice, have your voice heard, put pressure on our representatives to really advocate, for a number of things, for work visas for our new immigrants that have recently arrived, for expanded pathways to inclusion and citizenship for our undocumented folks whose lives and roots are really established here in Chicago and across the nation.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And Joe's been putting some notes in the comments in the chat, so I hope others do as well. And good points talking about the stratification in different states, different policies. I think he was offering to jump in there too, maybe. So we'll come back to that one. I'd like just to add, after talking with Courtney and having conversations with her, I reflected on that a little bit. And throughout my career, I've researched multilingual children and their families. I've witnessed the devastating effects of marginalization, discrimination, and erasure for too many people in this country. The policy context that you discussed, Courtney, is troubling in many places, and in too many cases is antithetical to hope. So I'm grateful for your leadership in this space on a national level, and I look forward to witnessing your impact here at UIC. So thank you. Our second faculty spotlight tonight is Professor Nic Weststrate. Nic joined the Faculty in Educational Psychology in 2019. Nic's interdisciplinary research program investigates psychosocial development across the adult lifespan with a context of families and the LGBTQ+ communities. Nic has been recognized with multiple UIC awards, including the 2022 Award for Creative Activity, the 2022 Honors College Faculty Fellow of the Year, and the 2023 Emergent Faculty Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Award. Nic has worked with a team to establish the LGBTQ+ Intergenerational Dialogue Project. Recently, he was the recipient of a prestigious Spencer Foundation Large Grant to expand that work. So Nic, thanks for joining us. Tell us a little bit about the context that your research is responding to and why hope is important today.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. And thank you for that question, Dean Chval. But before I answer it, I want to first express my gratitude to you for offering me this opportunity to share a message that desperately needs to be shared, but doesn't often get the chance to be uplifted on a platform like this. I know there are many important issues that we need to talk about at this forum, and we will continue to do so. But thank you this time for this space. Now, to answer your question, my research responds to the present circumstances in which LGBTQ+ people are expected to live and to be well. There's a common refrain in the queer and trans communities that it gets better. That is to say, while it might feel difficult today, tomorrow it will be better. Life will be better. The "it gets better" mantra sustains our hope as oppressed people and keeps us alive. This belief is so pervasive in our queer and trans discourses that it's almost mythic. But myth it is, because it hasn't really gotten better for queer and trans people. Some people are surprised to learn that despite social progress in several areas, it is still extraordinarily difficult to be queer or trans in America. And recently, circumstances for LGBTQ+ people have gotten much, much worse. And we know this to be true, both because people say so and we believe them when they do, but also because health and well-being disparities for both LGBTQ+ youth and older adults are growing, not shrinking as we might expect them to be. According to the Human Rights Campaign's State Equality Index, in 2022, there were 315 anti-LGBTQ+ bills introduced to state legislatures across the United States. That's more than double the number of LGBTQ+ supportive bills introduced. Of those 315 anti-LGBTQ+ bills, 29 were signed into law. The American Civil Liberties Union has reported that 10 months into the 2023 legislative session, the number of anti-LGBTQ+ bills has already reached 496, with 84 being passed into law. Most of these anti-LGBTQ+ bills target transgender, gender non-binary, and gender-expansive people, particularly youth, in the areas of medical care, education, athletics, and bathrooms. Several bills attempt to censor or erase queer and trans people, our knowledges, histories, cultures, practices, from being taught or even mentioned in schools or made available in books held in public libraries. By some reports, in the previous school year, there were over 3,300 books banned in K-12 schools. LGBTQ+ characters and themes were disproportionately represented in those books, as were racialized characters and themes of race and racism, and particularly content related to Black history and anti-Black racism. In a survey by the Trevor Project, only 28% of middle and high school LGBTQ+ students reported ever having learned about queer or trans people in their classes at school. And yet, LGBTQ+ youth who did learn about queer and trans people in their classes had 23% lower odds of reporting a suicide attempt in the past 12 months. The conclusion seems obvious. Representation saves lives. You can't be what you can't see. But it's not just about saving lives. It's not just about surviving. It's also about thriving and who has the right to thrive in our schools. Some people may bristle at this deficit framing as we all search for affirming and strength-based ways of interpreting marginalized lives. So I want to be clear. These deficits have nothing to do with LGBTQ+ people and everything to do with the contexts that frame their development. We need to change the violent structures that surround queer and trans lives so that I can thrive. This is the context that makes it necessary to find hope and also difficult to find hope. This is the context, Dean Chval, that my research and scholarship is responding to.
Thank you, Nic. How does your research, scholarship, or teaching transform education in ways that generate or inspire hope for the future?
Thanks. The answer to this question starts with the recognition that schools are complicated spaces for queer and trans people. They always have been. And although I do have hope for schools, my research and scholarship has turned to LGBTQ+ communities to do the work of LGBTQ+ education themselves. With this in mind, the central question in my research over the past few years has been, how do LGBTQ+ people access the knowledge and wisdom needed to survive and thrive in a country where that information is either not readily available to them or is actively kept away from them in spaces like schools? My colleagues and I have found that the answer to this question is in part to harness the power of meaningful LGBTQ+ intergenerational engagement. And you might think that this is an easy solution. However, unlike in families of origin, where this type of intergenerational socialization is typically built in, younger and older LGBTQ+ people rarely get to interact. This is because these generations of queer and trans people have been kept apart. Nearly an entire generation was lost to AIDS, and internalized stigma keeps many of our surviving elders deep in their closets. LGBTQ+ older adults may fear approaching youth because of the grooming and recruitment rhetoric that has been weaponized against queer and trans communities for decades, and engaged anew in the current wave of anti-LGBTQ+ legislation. This is not to mention the ways in which LGBTQ+ teachers have been actively censored by and kept out of schools and away from children. The LGBTQ+ generational divide runs deep. And to address this generation gap, for 4 years, my colleagues and I have been facilitating a community-engaged educational experiment here in Chicago called, as you said, Dean Chval, the LGBTQ+ Intergenerational Dialogue Project. I would like to mention that it means a lot to know that this research into the lives of LGBTQ+ people is fundable, especially today. And we thank the Spencer Foundation for having the courage to fund us. In this project, we, a developmental psychologist, an educational philosopher, a cultural anthropologist, and a social worker, have partnered with the Senior Services Program at the Center on Halsted, the Midwest's largest LGBTQ+ community center, to bring together now 4 cohorts of 15 younger and 15 older adults identifying across the queer and trans spectrums for storytelling, dialogue, art making, and shared meals every 2 weeks for 3 hours from September to May. Our younger participants are between the ages of 18 to 25, and our older participants are at least 60 years of age. We gather bi-weekly in the communal spaces of the community center, which is a converted police station, where years earlier, several of our elder participants had been booked for various reasons like degenerate disorderly conduct. A plaque hanging on the wall near the door tells the story in just a few words: from a place of discrimination to a home of honor. Since beginning the project 4 years ago, we have engaged over 120 people in a sustained manner across more than 85 sessions. Each time we come together, our time is spent exploring LGBTQ+ identities, histories, and intersectionalities through the lenses of our different generational and social positions. Both elders and youngers are invited to be teachers and learners in this space. We look for generational intersections around which joint meaning making can occur, such as the intersections offered by the AIDS crisis, the COVID-19 pandemic, and now monkeypox, as well as the intersections between different forms of anti-LGBTQ+ legislation across time, such as the multiple manifestations of censorship laws that queer and trans communities have needed to navigate. In this process, youth receive a treasure trove of wisdom that helps them to find footing in the chaos they confront today, and they acquire language, models, and tools for advocacy and activism. Elders who have survived so much don't just tell youth that it's going to get better. They teach them ways to make it better. And elders, they learn too. They learn what it's like to be a young queer or trans person today and what the future might hold for our communities. Our older adults do a lot of learning specifically around the future of gender, gender identity, and gender expression. Some of our elders go through their own gender journeys in our project, as new possibilities and languages are presented to them for self-making. And all of it can be so challenging, but also so joyful. Or as we say in our intergenerational community, we navigate through a lot of mud, but the mud means there have been so many rainbows. And hope is central to this experience. Intergenerational engagement inspires hope in our younger participants that they can carry forward the legacy of our communities as resilient advocates, activists, and change makers. Meanwhile, a sense of hope is ignited within elders in the knowledge that their sacrifices were not in vain, and that through engaging, educating, and emboldening LGBTQ+ youth, their hope for a better future might finally become realized.
Oh, that's so powerful, Nic. What you're describing, just the fellowship and but the storytelling and the bringing the history back and making others aware of it. It's just really incredible, the work that you're doing, bringing people together. How can attendees at this forum support your vision of hope in their lives and work?
Great question, thank you. I first want to say that I have been so deeply supported in doing this work here at the College of Education, which is not something I take for granted. To pursue this work without fear isn't a given. I have many colleagues around this country whose research programs and careers have been placed in jeopardy by recent legislation and unsupportive institutions. So thank you to all of you who have supported me in this work. And now, on top of all the support you've given, which is amazing, I will ask you to do even more because I get this chance. So first, please say gay and say lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, asexual, two-spirit, same-gender loving. Say all the letters of the rainbow alphabet. Because by saying these words, you ignite hope. Second, provide positive representation for LGBTQ+ people at all of their intersections. Think about your curriculum, your content, your language. Young queer and trans people can't be what they can't see. And this is exactly why so many states in this country are actively trying to erase LGBTQ+ content so that it becomes even harder to come into being queer or trans. But we will anyway. So please make it easier for us by showing us that we exist. There is nothing inherently sexual, harmful, or dangerous about teaching our youth about LGBTQ+ communities. Rather, this teaching will save lives. Third, challenge anti-LGBTQ+ talking points when you hear them. Be willing to disagree with people, even people you care about, and stand firm in your knowledge that it is not harmful but helpful for young people to learn about sexual and gender diversity. I know this takes courage. Let hope fuel that courage. Fourth, please count us. If you don't count us, we don't count. Ask about sexual and gender identity on applications and surveys. By not counting us, you make it difficult to access funding and resources allocated to underrepresented minorities. Fifth, please check in on the queer and trans teachers and school staff in your life. Once again, they are living in a state of terror and being characterized as groomers, recruiters, and predators who are dangerous to youth. These fictions are deeply dehumanizing and traumatizing. Sixth, please know that Illinois has an inclusive curriculum law that requires the teaching of LGBTQ+ history by 8th grade. We need to use our knowledge and expertise here in the College of Education to help teachers in the schools we serve to learn how to implement that curriculum. Finally, if you are queer or trans, and if it is available to you, please come out in your schools and communities. Please be unapologetically LGBTQ+. I know it's hard. It's hard for me too, especially when I read the news, to remember that there's nothing wrong with me. Harvey Milk, a gay politician assassinated in 1978, was clear about the need to come out. In his words, you have to give them hope. Hope for a better world, hope for a better tomorrow, hope that all will be all right. Without hope, not only the gays, but the Blacks, the seniors, the disabled, the us's will give up. Thank you.
Thank you, Nic. I've got to get my composure together here. So first of all, thank you for your courage. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for working so hard so that the LGBTQ community is seen, valued, heard, and thrives. Thank you for bringing generations together and bringing the truth to light that has been hidden and erased for members in every community in this country. I know in some of our initial conversations, you shared some of your dreams about developing a center here at UIC that will be a resource and a haven of hope for others. And I look forward to working with you to secure those resources and to dream more with you to accomplish that dream that you have. So I'm brought here with you. I would like to say to the audience that when I wanted to initially design these forums, I wanted the bulk of the time to actually be our faculty. They're the ones that are impressive. I feel like I'm a slacker on most days. They're doing just incredible work, and I feel it's my job to secure more resources for our faculty and staff to help them accomplish their dreams. That's why I think that both Courtney and Nic gave us powerful examples that illustrate why the college should be in the hope business. And I'd like to highlight a few images that'll help us imagine hope. So remember our 3 ideas of imagine, inspire, and ignite hope. The first one is an example from Chenzie Jones, who was one of our students who earned her bachelor's degree in the College of Education and the Human Development and Learning program in May of 23. And the Chicago Caregiving magazine, which we have linked on our news page of the college website, published a profile about her story. And I show some images here, some text excerpts, I should say, from that magazine article written by Katie. So for Chenzie Jones, graduation has gone from distant goal to impending reality. The mother of 8, grandmother of 27, and great-grandmother of 6 initially went straight into college after high school. But she had to step back when her mother needed hospice care, and Jones wanted to help her transition peacefully. Because of life and its unexpectancies, I ended up detoured and had to work to take care of my family. With her degree, Jones hopes to open a state-of-the-art daycare center where women of all cultures and colors who are doing something positive within their life can bring their children. Jones hopes school will help her find out the rules and regulations, the agencies that need to be involved to assist me in my goals. What I love most about this story is the hopefulness that Chenzie demonstrates. Hope that her own life could be different with a degree, which gave her the vision or image and the fuel, the inspiration to make it happen. And now she's passing that hope on to others, providing a picture of hope and the means to make that hope a reality. And she is just one example of the students that come to study in the College of Education. So many of our graduates provide images of hope to all those they know, especially their families. Consider our May 23 commencement. Look at the joy in those faces reflecting hope realized. For example, look at the families in the audience demonstrating pride. Look at the joy, hope, and relief in many cases of the graduates. Look at the children who proudly walk across the stage with their parents. I have to wonder, will that memory inspire them to pursue a college degree someday, and hopefully at the UIC College of Education? Lives and families transformed today and for generations to come. Their impact will be exponential. If you want an evening of entertainment, you should attend our commencement ceremony in May. Hope abounds. Our faculty and staff love to work with university students, and they also love to work with the little ones. Our programming with youth and community engagement also provides images of hope and illustrates why hope needs to be central to our work. Through these efforts, we want to inspire hope in others and illustrate how education can transform human flourishing. Working on the UIC campus and throughout Chicago communities, those who are associated with the College of Education have endless opportunities to imagine and witness hope. These experiences motivate us to go beyond imagining hope to inspire hope. Simply put, our students inspire hope every day. So many of them motivated by hope that their lives and the world around them can be different. Fight through every obstacle imaginable to make those hopes become reality. I had the opportunity to attend an AERA conference presentation, see the photo on the bottom left, where undergraduates from Professor Dion Dan's course shared what they had learned from her innovative teaching. Their insights and reflections illustrated how they could be future leaders on discussions about race. On that early Sunday morning, yes, they had to show up at 7:30 a.m. for that session, I was again inspired and grateful I call UIC home. Currently, 14 of our students are part of an initiative for Black and brown men who are studying to be elementary teachers. You'll see a few of them in the photo at the top right. Their stories about their journeys and why they want to enter the teaching profession are inspiring. The students in their field classrooms are drawn to them. Yesterday, I had a meeting with 3 of them, along with Professor Dakota Irby, who serves as the director, and coordinator Janice Fleming, and a leader from the IMC Chicago Charitable Foundation, who has been investing in this initiative. The donor asked the students many questions about their experiences. After a pause, one of the young men looked at the donor and asked, "What's your story?" Again, I was so proud to witness the confidence, the authenticity, and the curiosity of these young men who will inspire hope in future generations. You may have been reading about the national concern associated with loneliness and the desire for community after a long pandemic. Our student leaders want more events and opportunities to connect with their peers. The 2 pictures on the bottom right capture one such event from the spring semester. Our students want to be part of the hope business too. The 2 photos on the top left remind me of the impact of our graduate students. For example, Jade Stone was responsible for organizing a visit of scholars from Thailand at the beginning of this semester. As I debriefed that visit with our visitors, they shared how their conversations with Jade had changed their perspectives and inspired hope. The top left photo was taken at the completer ceremony in December of our Early Childhood Alternative Licensure Program. This map captures the 70 underserved Chicago communities where those students work. The impact of the College of Education is significant. Our students do not want to limit their thinking to Chicago. They want to inspire hope globally. Recently, we've initiated study abroad experiences for undergraduates in Costa Rica and Brazil, led by the leadership of Professor Jen Olson. In spring 2024, we will launch a study abroad experience for graduate students in Spain, led by Professor Federico Whiteholer and Professor Lali Morales. Our donors inspire hope by providing scholarships for our students. In many cases, these investments keep students enrolled. I was once one of those students. Our students are grateful and want to pay it forward, as Isaiah, Yesenia, and Nuria explain. I'll read a few of their sentences. Isaiah says, "I'm very thankful to have been a recipient of the Promise of Public Education Scholarship. I wouldn't be where I am today." Yesenia wrote, "Being the first person in my family to pursue a master's degree enables me to guide my younger siblings on their path to higher education." And Nuria wrote, "I also hope that we can listen to other students' needs, like setting up a food pantry to uplift them." The majority of students enrolled in the College of Education are either Pell Grant recipients and/or first-generation students. You may have read last week that U.S. News and World Report rankings examined social mobility as defined by graduation rates of Pell Awarded students and first-generation students. UIC was ranked number 16 in the country for social mobility. This will also become a factor in the Carnegie classification of universities in the future. UIC recognized the importance of it before it became popular and utilized in rankings. We want to offer hope in the form of employment opportunities for undergraduates and graduate assistantships in the college. This past month, we were able to launch a new initiative and introduced the inaugural group of College of Education ambassadors, thanks to the generous gift from a couple who earned their degrees at UIC. We are determined to secure resources to continue the program in the future. Nuria, who dreams of establishing a food pantry, was one of the 6 students who was selected after a competitive application and interview process. Their stories inspire us to embrace hope. As we continue to imagine and inspire hope, we must also consider the third essential component, igniting hope. We cannot ignite hope without investments. I would like to share some examples of those investments. First and foremost, we need more people to do this essential work. We are grateful that we've been able to expand our team in the college. In the past 13 months, we hired 16 new faculty, including 5 from the campus's Bridge to Faculty initiative. They bring incredible talent and expertise and will have a significant impact. We've also expanded our team with the hiring of 18 additional dedicated staff, including 9 new student success professionals and 9 administrative support staff. And last week, we transitioned the leadership of the Council on Teacher Education from the Vice Provost's office to the College of Education. I have no doubt that these 37 individuals will work alongside those who came before them to ignite hope for students, alumni, schools, and communities. The college also needs to secure more resources to ignite hope. This past year, we've strengthened our team, including a grant writer, expanded our HR team and finance team, so that we're better positioned to submit more grant proposals and receive those grant awards. This table shows the impact, comparing a few months in 2022, which resulted in 7 submissions, as compared to the same months in 2023 that resulted in 23 submissions. This team is igniting hope. And we are grateful to all of those who made investments to ignite hope. These images capture a few examples from the past year. For example, under the leadership of Professor Rebecca Woodard and Professor Nate Phillips, and a generous gift from one of our donors, we were able to transform one of our spaces to create the Make Good Lab, a makerspace and digital production studio, a place where we ignite hope for communities within and outside the college. With generosity from multiple donors and leadership of the faculty from Curriculum and Instruction Department, they were able to launch the Centering Black Lives Thought and Liberation Initiative. This past summer, they were able to host the 2nd Freedom School Youth Institute. With generous support from the CME Foundation, Professor Kathy Sheridan and her team were able to develop 3 websites to provide resources and support early childhood educators and families with young children. Thousands are viewing these websites. During the past 3 years, with the generosity of Mrs. Marjorie Polino, we've been able to support early childhood educators in innovative ways. And all of these investments have had a significant impact. We look forward to partnering with others who want to join us in imagining, inspiring, and igniting hope. And now we'd like to open the floor for questions, ideas, and discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dean Chval, Dr. Luedke, and Dr. Weststrate. Now is the time for questions, and they can be directed at either one of our 3 speakers. So please add your questions to the chat. We'll go through as many as possible. And okay, just to kick us off, the first question that we received was for Courtney and Nic. Would you each please share a little about your journeys, or what facilitated your passion? Why were you interested in coming to UIC?
I can go ahead and start. And I'll start, I think, with the last part of your question about being new to UIC, because I've only been here for about a month and a half. There was a number of things that really drew me to coming to UIC. One of which is UIC it's an MSI, a minority serving institution, a Hispanic serving institution. And so what this brings to mind to me is first, like the role of serving this, but thinking about the opportunity I have to serve the students who are here at UIC. I believe that I have a greater opportunity to have a deeper and more profound impact with not only my work in the classroom, but also the scholarship that I'm engaged in, given the community environment I'll be able to be a part of here at UIC. Another one of the really significant draws for me was the focus of racial justice across the work of the faculty here on campus, in terms of their teaching, in terms of the service that they're involved in, their community engagement, their scholarship. I was really excited and drawn to be a part of a community of folks who really have similar values. I'm also really already enjoying the more intellectually stimulating environment that I have here at UIC in the College of Education. And I hope that, some of these very factors that I just shared with you all will also be some of the things that draw students here to UIC as well. So I'm hoping that those are some of the factors that will be, bringing in incoming students into the urban higher ed program and other programs here in the College of Education. I really want to be here to support students in their journeys. Again, as I shared earlier, I'm really committed to preparing racial justice change agents, and I'm excited about the work that I'm able to do in those efforts here at UIC.
Thank you. And Dr. Weststrate, before you jump in, I just would love to share with you one of the comments that we received in the chat that you should hear. How did I not expect this to be so emotional? Thank you for all you do. I am inspired to re-engage and do what I can to help mentor, support, and advocate for UIC students. You are raising the hope-o-meter in all your work. We're coining that. So thank you, Rena. So Nic.
All right, thanks so much, Myrna, and thank you, Rena, for saying that. I'm loving the hope-o-meter. The part of this question that I'm gravitating towards right now is the piece about what facilitated my passions, only because it's so front of mind for me, having just spoken about my passions in intergenerational engagement, specifically in the queer and trans community. Where did that start? It's really rooted in my own life story and experience. I remember I grew up in rural Canada, and I didn't have any access to queer people. I had never met a queer person before I went to university, and then I did. And this one student affairs professional working at the University of Toronto saw potential in me, invested in me, and helped me to start my first student leadership positions on campus. And a friendship blossomed. And there was one time, and he was an older gay man, not much older, than me, but 20 years maybe at most, but lived in a different generation, a different time, and had come into himself in a different way. And that I hadn't had the opportunity to yet. So he took me to the Toronto Gay Pride Parade, and talk about emotional, an awesome event. I was totally crying. And he pulled me aside after the parade, and he sat me down and he said, in our community, we need to look out for one another, and we have a tradition among my friends. So what he gifted me a necklace, this super tacky and awesome rainbow necklace. And he said, I'm gaying it forward to you. And he said, we have to do that in our community because we don't always have other places to turn to for that type of support. So that really stuck with me, the idea of having to gay it forward or pay it forward. And I really internalized that. That was important for me. That maybe kept me alive. So I want to study that, and I want to create that. And I know that at UIC, and specifically in the College of Education, it was a space I could do that. Everywhere I looked as I was considering coming here, I saw community service, care. And I thought, this is a place I can go to be in a major metropolitan city where I had access to a community to do this work. So, and it was exactly that. So I'm so happy to be able to follow my passions here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, both of you. And I think the statement from Rena kicked off the next question, which is, how can I as an alumni get involved with the college?
It's a great question. That would be a really long list. So I think it's, I think it's always a conversation with people in terms of how do you match passion and time and capacity in this conversation. But I would say the first thing is I think we have the best programs in the country. And so if you want to be part of recruiting students to UIC, that's a role that you can play. We have a lot of students that need mentoring. And I think the best mentors could be those that came before them that have been, have relationships either with UIC or have been alumni of UIC. Or those that, work in the community. I worked as a staff member at UIC more than 20 years ago now. And I loved serving as a mentor to our current students in that role. I think, what you've heard tonight in both of these contexts is the important role of policy and also just having conversations with people can, be in the grocery store, can be in the elevator, you can be on the street, you never know where it's going to be. What are you observing that, just isn't right? And we need people to advocate. Those are going to be all things that really help us. Who do you know that should hear about Nic and Courtney's work and the other work of the faculty and staff in this college and the students that we're serving, the communities that we're serving, and how can you help us get connected to others? That would be an incredible role for you to play. Of course, I think, Courtney talked about, examples of providing scholarship support. There are lots of different ways, financial resources, that could be supporting our community here in the college. So again, that would be a conversation with either myself or Sheila's on the line there, or Myrna, but all of us would love to have that conversation about resource investments. We're looking at how we can write more proposals, more grant proposals, and sometimes people can support us with getting letters of support for a proposal, for example. Those are a few. I don't know, Nic and Courtney, what would you add to the wish list?
So I guess I will start since Nic's I mean, I mentioned about my dream of not only like scholarships, but like endowed scholarships. So UIC does have different, so in the context of the work that I spoke about today with undocumented students, there are different resource centers, like culturally, ethnically based resource centers here on campus. And within at least one of those centers, there's sharing of resources for undocumented students, but we don't here have an undocumented student resource center, and some other campuses here in Chicago do have it across the country. And so like UIC, HSI, you just talked about 65% of students in the College of Ed, 60-some%, Latino, Latinx students, like that could be a great resource. I mean, I don't want to talk about my highway view here. You talk about the building. I mean, that's more a long-term funding thing, but there's
the top of the list is a new building for the College of Education. Everybody wants that. So anybody knows somebody that wants to build a new building at UIC, let's add that to the list. We dream big here in the College of Education. So yeah, that's hilarious. Let's see, Nic, anything you want to add there?
Yeah,
and then I think we have to wrap it up here, running over a little bit.
Super quick. I'm interested in connecting with alumni who are in schools. I'm doing, my work is in the community and these kind of like third spaces or other alternative spaces. I really want to get into schools. So, I know we have a lot of alumni working in schools. I'm interested in exploring those types of connections. How do we do some of this work? How do I connect some of the elders that I work with in the community to classroom spaces? And what could, I want to imagine some hope in that space. So if you're in a school or have connections to a school, I'd like to have a conversation with you about how to do this work there.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, great idea. Well, I'll turn it over to Myrna, but before I do that, I just want to thank you all for your time. I know it's so valuable in the evening and that you've invested in the College of Education. So you showed up tonight for us, and that means a great deal. And we look forward to the next forum. We do this once a semester and bring in faculty each time to highlight, and grateful for Nic and for Courtney and for all the staff that worked very hard to put the logistics together for tonight's event. So thank you all.
Thank you, Dean Chval. And with that, we will conclude our gathering this evening that hopefully re-inspired all of your spirits as it did ours. And you will receive again a survey in a couple of days. Please share your thoughts with us. We invite you to collaborate and become our co-conspirators in igniting hope. And you will also receive a link with a video recording, which will be available on the College of Education website. But we are signing off for now and always here and ready to visit. So thank you.
Thank you. Have a great